There's a very specific kind of silence that happens when you open a drawer that you haven't touched in months. You pull it open looking for one thing, and suddenly, you're staring at a pile of old receipts, tangled chargers, empty boxes from things you bought years ago, and maybe even a shirt you forgot you owned. And every object feels attached to a version of you. And maybe that's why letting go of things is rarely about the things themselves. We don't always keep things because we love them. Sometimes we keep them because we don't know how to separate ourselves from the feeling attached to them. I think that's why certain objects stay in our homes for years without us even noticing anymore. They slowly become part of the background. We stop seeing them clearly. So today, I want to talk about some of the things to finally declutter that might have become a background identity in your own life. Boxes these days are just too nice to throw away. I've been keeping almost all of them, especially Apple boxes for some reason. They are always so clean, minimal, and sturdy that throwing them away felt wrong. I've been telling myself that I was saving them just in case. Just in case I sold the item one day. Just in case I needed storage. Just in case they became somehow useful again. But they almost never did. They just sat there collecting dust while I continued buying more things that came in even more beautiful packaging. And it's funny how companies have learned this about us. Packaging isn't just packaging anymore, it's part of the emotional experience of buying something new. The smooth opening, the carefully folded paper, the texture of the box, the feeling that you bought something important. Sometimes the box survives longer than the excitement itself. And maybe we do this emotionally too, holding on to versions of ourselves that no longer exist because the memory still looks beautiful from the outside. A few months ago, I tried on a pair of jeans that I hadn't worn in years. It still fit technically, but it didn't feel like me anymore. And that feeling is hard to explain unless you've experienced it too. Because sometimes clothes stop fitting your identity long before they stop fitting your body. You look in the mirror and suddenly you realize that you're staring at a version of yourself you've quietly outgrown. Maybe it reminds you of a phase where you were trying harder to impress people, or a version of you that cared too much about trends. Or maybe it belonged to a time in your life that felt emotionally heavy. And yet, we keep those clothes hanging there. Not because we wear them, but because getting rid of them feels strangely personal. We tell ourselves that maybe I'll wear this one day again. But deep down, we know that we're not waiting to wear the clothes again. We're waiting to feel like that version of ourselves again. Maybe more confident, maybe thinner, maybe happier, maybe more loved. Clothes carry emotional timelines inside them. There are shirts connected to heartbreaks, sweaters connected to winters you barely survived emotionally, jeans connected to your old routines, perfumes connected to specific people. And sometimes, opening your closet feels less like choosing an outfit and more like walking through old identities. I think that's why decluttering can feel unexpectedly emotional. You think you are organizing fabric, but in reality, you're confronting old versions of yourself. There's also this category of clutter that almost everyone has, but nobody talks about. Chargers for devices you no longer own, random adapters, one broken pair of wired earphones tangled beyond repair, USB cables that belong to something you can't even identify anymore. And somehow we keep all of them. I once found a micro USB charging cable and realized that none of the devices I own use micro USB anymore. But throwing it away still felt risky. Because what if the moment I throw it away is the exact moment I suddenly need it? And honestly, I think a lot of clutter survives through imagined future scenarios. Tiny fictional emergencies we create in our heads. So we keep things not because they serve our present life, but because they calm our fear of future inconvenience. And maybe that sounds small, but it adds up emotionally. Because every object quietly asks for mental space. Every drawer filled with unfinished decisions create a low background noise in your life, loud enough to slowly drain you. I truly didn't realize how much visual clutter affected me until I cleared one small drawer beside my bed. One drawer. And afterward, the room felt quieter, like my brain could finally breathe. This one feels oddly universal. Empty perfume bottles, finished skincare jars, fancy candle containers, plastic packaging that might be useful later. Now, honestly, I love reusing glass jars. I genuinely do. There's something comforting about turning an old coffee jar into a container for dry fruits. It feels resourceful and intentional. But at some point, I realized I was treating every empty container like it had a future potential. And suddenly, I had an entire collection of plastic containers sitting under my sink doing absolutely nothing. I think sometimes we confuse potential usefulness with actual usefulness. And there's a difference. Not everything needs to earn a second life. Some things fulfilled their purpose already. And once you realize that, the way you look at clutter changes. The hardest clutter to let go of might be the kind nobody else can see. Photos on your phone, thousands of them, duplicates, screenshots, blurry pictures of the sky, photos of the food you never looked at again, videos from the concerts where the audio sounds terrible, random screenshots you took because you thought you'd need them later. And somehow, they just stay there forever. I was scrolling through my camera roll recently, trying to find one specific picture, and I realized something unsettling. Most of my photos were not memories, they were evidence that something happened. But I wasn't actually revisiting them emotionally. I wasn't sitting down lovingly reliving those moments. They were just accumulating silently in my digital storage. And I think modern life quietly encourages us to document more than we digest. We collect digital clutter the same way we collect physical clutter, out of fear. Fear of forgetting, fear of losing moments, fear that something meaningful will disappear if we don't save proof of it. But the strange thing about meaningful moments is the real ones usually stay anyway, not always visually, but emotionally. You may forget the exact photo, but you remember the feeling of laughing so hard that your stomach hurts. You remember the warmth of someone sitting beside you. You remember how the air smelled after it rained. Those things live somewhere deeper than camera rolls. Clutter rarely announces itself loudly. It builds slowly through hesitation, one item at a time, one maybe later at a time, one emotionally complicated object at a time, until suddenly your environment starts reflecting emotional exhaustion back at you. Every time I fill a donation bag with clothes, I just feel so much lighter. Not because my closet looks prettier afterward, but because I realize that every single time I'm actually stopping my present self, forcing to coexist with so many expired versions of me. I notice how emotional the process actually is. Maybe that's part of growing too. Learning that memories can still matter even when the object doesn't remain. And I know some people hear conversations about decluttering and immediately think it means becoming cold or detached or hyper minimalist. But I don't think that's the point at all. I think the point is creating enough space to actually feel present inside your own life again. So before you leave, I'd love to know, what's one thing you have kept for way longer than you probably needed to? Maybe it's a box, a piece of clothing, an old note, or even photos you can't bring yourself to delete yet. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. And if this video felt relatable in some small way, I'd love for you to stay and subscribe. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.